I'm sorry?
Going to nefesh v'hamid.
Yes.
When they eat the person they go.
Yeah. The same idea. The same idea. Kishem Yodim Adofa. Very good. So Mele, so boy side, divorce. Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't have to apologize. He got married to someone that's Zoyman of the Zara. A daughter of someone's Zoyman of the Zara. He did tshuva. He was Pirish. Fine. You know what? It's even he has a badge of honor now. So how come the Shvatim was saying here that it's a guy for Pinchos that his grandfather was Peter Magonim of the Zara? You said he did tshuva. If it's not a gnai for Moshe to get married to his daughter, it's a gnai for his grandson? That's another door. So how do you reconcile this fear between the two morals? It's really the moral bias, it's not moral, it's a Rashi. Just the moral explains it. The Shvatim are in charge of Yichus, and they're the ones saying, he had a grandfather who was Obed of the Zah. Yeah, but you said in verse that that's not a problem anymore. Not only it's not a problem, it's not a chisar, it's a maila. So now, is it a strike against Pinchas that Yisro was a bit of the Zah? Yes or no? And the verse he says no because he did tshuva.
Pinchas himself wasn't a good. He hadn't got that.
But again, but that's what the Shvatim said. But the Shvatim said they did. The Shvatim said, look, he has a grandfather who was a bit of the Zah. They used it against him. Are you mevazin? So that's Lashon Rashi. The Shvatim were mevazin. What's the bizarre? He did tshuva. I'm gonna have to stop those two Hasmo boys. I'm gonna have to separate them. You know, there's two Hasmo boys over there. They do a lot of business there together. You're not Hasmo? It's only your son who's Hasmo. Ah, okay. Abu Hasmo. Abu Hasmo. Okay, right, so let's call that question number one. Question one from that is how to reconcile these two Maharals. One Maharal says by us that the Shvatim were saying they're the ones in charge of Yichus, whatever, and saying, Pinchas, there's a question mark there, because his grandfather or great grandfather was Mafatim Agonim of the Zah, and the Maharal in the Gemara says he got married to you, so even though he was Mafatim Agonim of the Zah, because he did tshuva on it. So it's not a strike against him anymore. I know, it's a Maila. What?
It's a way to get at him. I mean,
It's sheker. It was pretty much Shvatim. Shifteka.
No,
And the Shvatim, well, the Shvatim were mazim. Right? It's not that gold is green. I mean, gold is green is also chashuv. Don't get me wrong.
No, because the Rashi finishes Lefichach Ba'akasav Yitzhak Aaron. So Rashi's saying that there would have been something in it if that's why Ba'akasav Yitzhak.
That's right. I mean, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says you're right, but it's coming from a different right. There's another Zayil good Michael. So let's call that question number one. Boy, so there's something really gewaltig again. I got to tell you, there's such siyata d'shmai when I prepare a shir for this oilam. But sadly, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has rachmanas on you, especially on me a little bit, especially it's recorded. And he has, Baruch Hashem, always something comes up, always. But meanwhile, let's call this question number one. It's a shtaka kasha. Let's go on a little bit more in this Rashi on page 2. Question number 2 at the top of the page it says, what was it? Number 2, it's not Stami was Avodah Zarah. He fattened animals for Avodah Zarah. Is there any reason why you're going to such graphics? Pitem agolim la Avodah Zarah.
Dedication. It was a step further.
Was what? It's a step further? Look, I could say it's a step less. That's not Avodah Zarah itself. You can make an animal fat.
Yeah, but it's a man's job. He's snipping it on the behemoth, the farmer pushing down the.
Okay, yes, but it has to be more. No, it has to be more than that. It's not cheap. It's a fatima golim. People do that. Meaning chutz from Avodah Zarah, it's also cheap. That's what it is. Avodah Zarah and cheap. The Bash is that. Okay, so let's call that question number 2. Why could you just say it was a bit of Avodah Zarah? Mefatim agolim Avodah Zarah.
He's a bit like he's a supplier to the Avodah Zarah. Not just doing it himself. He's spreading it around.
Okay, that's the pretty one. Making the animals fat. Okay. Is that called spreading around? And then the people will buy it for Avodah Zarah. Okay, it could be. It could be. He's then I hear. Okay, now Rabbi say again. If you look at Rashi, what did he say? The Horak Nasi Yisrael, Nasi Shem Yisrael. Right? Rashi in Maksbet, the second line. It says even the word Horak twice by typo. You have a type? You have it twice? And it's a mistake. The Horak Nasi Shem Yisrael. The Horak. You know what? Rabbi say this Gemara appears in 3 places in Shas. Look how it appears. In Soita, Shvatim Mevazim Azor, Reitim Mepuzi Zeh, Shepitim Avi Imu Agolim Lamed Zora, Yaharog, Nasim Yisrael. Doesn't say Baharag. Yaharog. In Baba Basra, in Bakschet, Shvatim Mevazim Vomim, Reitim Mepuzi Zeh, Shepitim Avi Imu Agolim Lamed Zora, Yaharog, Nasim Shalom Yisrael. And what does it say in Sanhedrin? Here it says what Rashi said. Shvatim Mevazim, Reitim Mepuzi Zeh, Shepitim Avi Imu Agolim Lamed Zora, Veharag. What's the difference between say Yaharog or Vaharag? What? What do you mean? Well, obviously they spoke after he did it.
Has he got the right?
Yaharog mean,
Has he got the right?
does he have the right to kill them? And what does Vaharag mean? And he killed them. Right? Right? So, give a look at Bak Shiyut, for example, the Torah Chaim, it's a Choshva Achman and Bab Basra. Choshvula Dovon Yehura, they thought it's Gaiva. Yehura is Gaiva, in Bak Yud. לפי שאין ראוי לקנא כינס השם ולעשות מעשה גדול כזה, אלא אם כן מי שהאבויסם גדולים חסידי עליון, מכאן עם כינס השם צבקס. You have to come from a very good stock to do something like that. there has to be סתומה, טבע הבונים לאחוז מעשר ועשה בידיהם. אבל פנחס כמעט שבא מישראל שפיתם הגולים עבדי זוהר, היה נראה להם שלא היה ראוי לאותו מעשה. You think anybody can just go and kill a Nasa B'Yisrael? So that's Yarog, Bitmiya, meaning he came from such a stock, and he has the chutzpah to go kill a Nasa B'Yisrael? That's what Yarog means. But if you say, like Rashi says in the Gemara Sanhedrin, Veharag, so it's not Bitmiya, you're just pointing out another Nekuda. What's your second point? Peter Veharag Nasa B'Yisrael.
Another strike against him.
Another strike against him. That's what it means. What's the strike?
When he kills him.
Oh. Okay, so let's call the question number 3. Sheila Shlishit, as you see number 10. Ma tosefet shel Veharag Nasa B'Yisrael. Ma ze mareh. What's another strike against him? The way Moshe Chaim's calling it. Good.
He's a murderer.
Oh! Let's go. Question number 4. You know, every person in this room has had two grandfathers, maternal, paternal. It's no chiddush, right? So what's the argument? They're trying to say, you know, he has a Zaidi who was Mafatim Agal of the Zara. And it goes back against him, but he has another Zaidi called Aaron Cohen. Good Morning America. The Shvatim didn't know that he has another Zaidi called Aaron Cohen? The Maral asked this question, which someone already asked before. In Bakshid Aleph. Od kasher. V'chi b'shoitim edavar? Are these Shvatim, are they fools? Shayu oimim re'isa ben puti zeh, v'chi lo yadu d'chtiv le'mishpachoisam le'beis avoisam? Shekol adam mityeches acharav? He's asking me, you go after the father. Well, what are they going after the mother here? Ella, rather, what were they saying? Shayu oimim shemitzad ha'em eino miyuchas. There's a yuchas problem back from the mother's side. V'hashta, ma mo'il yishichsa ha'kosa b'char ha'av? The sof mitzad ha'em eino miyuchas. Meaning, what are they saying? There's a strike against him that he has a maternal grandfather who's something to be embarrassed about. So what are you answering? But he has another grandfather. We always know that there's 2 grandfathers, and you always go after the father's side. But they're saying, but there's something here that doesn't smell right. So what are you answering? Yeah, but there's another grandfather? Let's call the Rabbi Say question number 4. And the last question for tonight, what was the Mida Keneged Mida Pinchas God? Brisi Shalom. Could you say the deed that he did is called Shalom? I mean, I understand he had to do it. And it was Chashem, and it was Shisha Nisa Nasul Pinchas. But is that the reward should be peace? Shalom. Doesn't sound that that's the Mida Keneged Mida, what he did here. So Rabbi said, let's repeat it. Yeshivas Chamasi. But that's the result why he did it. But he did Shalom?
Yes.
That was his kavanah, maybe? Yeshivas Chamasi? Could be. Okay, could be. I hear. Hey, removing chaos is also called Shalom. Okay, good.
If the Torah, when the Torah mentions in Shemais, the Torah calls him Kotiel.
Yeah.
Rashi says that because so why is the Torah's calling him? Why is that actually an issue?
We're going to come back to that's a question that we're not going to. I'll speak to you afterwards about it. What did the Torah mean in Shemais Perek Vav? Yeah, good kasha. Anyway, so let's repeat. We have our 5 questions. Let's repeat the questions without looking inside. Question number 1, I'll say, because that's easier, the steer between the morals. And Gvuras Hashem, we don't hold it against Yisro that he was Mefatima. He did tshuva. What do you want from the guy? But Makam Shabbat tshuva, dude, so they give Kurim with him. Fakir, it's even a COVID now. Look where he came from. So how come over here it's a Gnai? Navazim, I say. That's question number one. Question number two. Come on, chevre.
Why do we stress that he did
Why what?
Why do we stress that he did over the
Why do we stress that he did have a dessert in a way of mefatim agolim lavadazar? What's this graphics here? He fattened animals for lavadazar. What does that mean? Good. What was question number three? Vaharak means another strike against him. What's the strike? He was mefatim agolim lavadazar, and it adds up. How does it add up? What was question number four?
He also knew the other side.
Meaning, what's the question saying? Well, there's a zany on the other side. Very nice, says the Maral. But they're saying there's a problem here on this side. Yeah, but there's another zany. How does that address the point? And the last question is, what's the midah kedeged midah? So, boy, say, really, it's found in a lot of places. But I went to someone that says it straight on. Ma'or v'shemesh, a Hasidic Rebbe. I was called Kolmenus. Klonimus. You know what he says? We could skip maybe Backseat Bet and go straight to Backseat Gimel. You have the Hadmon Chabad. What do you have there? Yeah. So we're quoting the Lubavitch Rebbe. Afterwards, okay. What does he say? טענתם של בני ישראל כלפי פנחס הייתה שהעובדה שדווקא הוא מתוך בני ישראל שנכחו במקום קם והרג את זמרי לא נבע רק מכינס השם שבערה בו אלא ממידס האכזוריוס הטבוע בנפשו. לכן ביזו אותו השבטים דווקא על שפיתם אבי אמו הגולם לעבדי זרה שכן פיתו הגולם לצורך שחיטתם הוא מעשה אכזרי המעיד על עושהו שהוא בעל מידות אכזריות. בני ישראל טענו איפה שפנחס ירש מסבו את מידס האכזוריוס ולכך היה זה דווקא הוא שקם והרג את זמרי. The issue is not started by his lineage. Where did this come from, this deed? From a good place or a bad place? The Shvatim were saying he has this streak of Achzorius in the system. Pitem Agolim Avdazor has a little act of cruelty. It's Achzorius. You fatten an animal to shecht it. It doesn't sound nice. Okay? Pitem Agolim. And he's the first one. Everybody was standing there. He's the first one to take a knife and stab him. Doesn't it show that he's a little bit has issues with Kas and Achzorius? They were claiming that he has you take midas from the different relatives that you have, right? You take midas, and they were claiming this is coming from a bad place. It's coming from Achzorius. What's the problem? Okay. It's coming from Achzorius. They're claiming against him this is not coming from Kinas Hashem. It's from Achzorius. Answer the question, this is coming from Aaron HaKohen. Let's go on. Let's go on to the next page. Page 3. What do you know about Aaron HaKohen? What does it say about Yudalit? Hillel Oimer, Heve mitamidov shel Aaron, Oyem Shalom, V'roidev Shalom, Oyem v'Zabriyos u'Mekavan l'Torah. There's nothing in Pinchos which came from Yisrael. That's how the Gemara learns it also. Give a look at Max as well. לפיכך בא הכוסוב ומייחס אותו אחר אהרון הכהן, כלומר שפנחס זה הכל אחר אהרון. כל כך היה ייחוס אהרון גודל, שבטל אצלו ייחוס ישראל, ואין בו שמץ פסול מישראל, שפיתם הגולים עבדי זרה. Meaning, it could be you're right that Yisrael was an Achzori. It could be. It could be. But don't worry about it. It's irrelevant. Whatever he did comes around him. It's coming from a yearning for Shalom. That's why he did it. You know, different midas come from different sources. You thought it's coming from the fact that there are two strikes against him that show Achzorius. Strike number one, Pitem Agorim Avodah Zarah. Strike number two, everyone's standing there. He's the one that comes out to take a knife and stab him. Doesn't it show a little bit that he's like hot-tempered? Answers it goes, well, it's not coming from there at all. It's coming from the fact it comes from Aaron. It came from a peace motive. That's what happened here. Rabbi said, at this stage we could almost answer 4 out of the 5 questions that we had. Let's start backwards. The 5th question. What's the midah keneged midah that gets shalom? Pasha, he did it because of Aaron HaKohen, that's right of shalom. What was question number 4? What? Well, were they quoting different grandfathers there? Everybody has 2 grandfathers. They're asking from which, is it coming from a good place in Pinchos or a bad place? Where's it coming from? It's coming from the place that there's nothing in it which isn't good. He's Kuloi Aaron. What was question number 3? What's the Baharik? Another strike against him that they said, look, he's hot-tempered. What was question number 2? What's the graphics of Pitim Agolim Lavduzah? It shows the shtickle achzorius. You're like nice, you're fattening them to shech them. It shows the shtickle achzorius. But the first question Rabbi Yosef was still a bit stuck on. But he did tshuva. So Rabbi Yosef, here comes the whole issue. Once we understand that the issue here between the Shvatim and HaKadosh Baruch Hu is about midos. You remember the recorded midos machine? When a person does an avera due to a bad midah that he had, the bad midah brought about this avera, and he does tshuva in the avera. Does that also rectify the midah? What happens then? Let's say if a person speaks Lashon Hara, again, I want to bring up my question. Actually, if a person speaks Lashon Hara because he's full of sinah, and he stopped speaking Lashon Hara because the Chofetz Chaim told him to stop, and he made a chavrus in the Chofetz Chaim, and he stopped speaking Lashon Hara. Did he also solve the problem of the sinah? Or not?
No.
So I was looking, I wanted to see if anybody talks about it. When you do tshuva, does it take care of the midah that, how do you say the brought about? There's another word for it. Cause, brought about. And I was in Oitzel Chachmat Rabbi say, there's another word to bring about, something with a P.
Precipitate.
Precipitate.
No, another word. What?
I think promulgate.
Okay, that's what I know what dream of. Okay, so we'll stick to cause. So by saying, in Oitzel Chachma I found out that the Eliyahu Lepian addressed this issue. Where? Not in his farm. There's a sefer that came out in 1963, Sefer HaZikaron, 2 volumes, on one of the Rosh Hashivas of Hebron those days, Reb Aaron Cohen. Okay. And there he has a mimer called Pachas Kamayim, Reb Eliyahu Lepian. And he tackles it from a different angle. What did Yaakov Avinu, when he ranked out Reuven, what did he say? Pachas Kamayim, which is the Midah. He didn't speak about the Avera that he did, but about the Midah, which brought about this Avera. Why didn't you speak about the Avera itself? Being Bel Yitzuyov, he didn't mention it, Yaakov. So look at Baxter Zayin. But don't look at on that sefer that I did not even know that it existed. התשובה לשאלה, מדוע באמת לא נענש ראובן על החטא העבר? פשוטה היא. The answer is פשוט. ידועים דברי רש"י על הפוסק, ויושב ראובן אל אבו, מהיכן שם, אומר רש"י שהיה עוסק בשק ובתעניס, על שבלבל יצוי אביו. ולאחר שראה ראובן שיהודה הודה בחטאו, הודה גם הוא במעשהו, ועל ידי זה היה לו גם ביזיון, בזה שהכל ידעו את חטאו. רואים אנו שראובן עשה תשובה נוראה על המעשה. התשובה יחד עם התעניוס והבושה הביאו כפור הגמור על החטא. וממילא אין מקום להענישו על חטא העבר, שכבר נמחק. It's erased. מכאן נמצאנו למדים, שאפילו אחרי התשובה והכפרה, נשארת המידה המביאה את האדם לחטוא. תשובה עוקרת את החטא, ולא יש המידה. בכדי לעקור מידה, דרוש עמל מיוחד. יעקב אבינו saying, the chet's over. The chet that you did is over. You did tshuva, it's deleted. But the midah is still there. Pachas kamayim. And then he goes on with another cute word. Give what else he says. He proves it so nicely. He quotes the Chazal, which is the Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Kuf Levav, the next one, Yidzai. Chazal omrim Adam shenolad b'mazal ma'adim, in a certain kind of mazel, which is a very angry kind of type. Nitiyah yesh lo ne'ot midam. He's a blood-seeking individual. מה יעשה? אגב, מעצם השאלה מה יעשה, אומרים לנו שאותו אדם מכיר בחיסרון. הוא בא לשאול כיצד לתקנו, he wants to know how to correct it. אומרים חז"ל, יש שייכת. ואם זה עדיין לא מספק את אהבתו, הוא נהנה רק מדם אדם, he needs human blood, יהיה מועל. ואמר הסבא מכרם, שאילו אותו שאלו, if you would have been asked this question, היה עונה שילמד בכל יום 4 שעות מוסר. Learn Musar 4 hours. You have a tendency to be like that? Don't be a sheikhet. Don't be a moel. Learn Musar. 4 hours a day. How come the Gemara doesn't answer that? Cute way of the Saba Mikam to bring out this idea, which is Chazal Oronu she'af bekocham shel tefila, Torah u'musar ein leshanot midah b'midas hanefesh. אבל לנו כוון מיתתו להפיקים רצויים. You have to rechannel, what's the word in English? To supplement something? That you take something and use it for something positive. Michal, how is it called in the professional word? Sublimate? That's the word? Okay, good. Sublimate. Papa said, so we can already see a little bit of a direction here. But let's go a little bit into this Nakuda. Again, there's something here I gotta show you what I discovered. Number 22. עולה כאן יסוד גדול. תשובה אינה מועילה בפני עצמה לתקן מידוס. בשביל זה צריך עבודה מיוחדת. To betake the Maise, we have Charata, Kabbalah Nasi. Yeah. For the Midas part, it's another whole new avodah. Kach olem midivre Rambam b'mayim. Look at the Rambam. A person we're already in Chodesh Tammuz. What does Chassidim say? What does Tammuz stand for? Zmani Tshuva, Memash Mashim Ubayim. In Bakshut Chet. Look at the Rambam. The Rambam has a Havavina. Look. Al toimar she'ein Tshuva ele me'averes she'esh be'maiseh. Kukun znus v'gezlu gneva. You'll see soon that the Rambam is saying maybe Tshuva works only on deeds, not on midos. There's no such thing as Tshuva for midos. Don't say that. But there's a Havamina of the Rambam. Al tomar, don't say she'ein Tshuva ele me'averes she'esh be'maiseh. Kukun znus v'gezlu gneva. אלא, rather, כשם שצריך אדם לשוב מאלו, כך הוא צריך לחפש בדעות רעות, that's midas, you'll see in a minute, שיש לו, ולשוב מן הכעס, ומן האיבה, ומן הקינה, ומן ההיטול, that's לצונס, ומרדיפת המומן, והכובד, ומרדיפת המחולת וכיוצא בהם, מן הכל צריך לעזור בתשובה. ואלו ההבנות, the more midas words, קשים ממועסת שיש במעשה, שבזמן שאדם נשקע באלו קשה הוא לפרוש בהם. וכן הוא אומר, because a pasuk that it's tshuva on midos, Yazov Rasha Darko, that's my thing, ve'ish oven machshavoisav. Let's look at the Bakshitet, what the Radak says on that pasuk. In Bakshitet, Yazov Rasha Darko b'maisu b'peh, by deed and speech, וכן Yazov machshavoisav aroyes, ki ein tshuva mo'ilah b'nira, im lo tiyeh gam ke b'nister. Tshuva external won't help if it's not also internal. Ki toivus ha'odam aroyesav im tluyas b'yad, that's my thing, בפה, speech, ובלב, מידוס. ומשלושתן צריך תשובה. You need tshuva also midos. That's what the Rambam was proving from this pasuk. Now we're putting out a problem with the Rambam's Havamina, that there's no tshuva on midos. So look at Bakschaf. הנה מצא הרמב"ם לנכון להעמיד לפנינו הלכה מיוחדת ולהשמיענו חידוש. in Bakschaf. כי נוהגת היא התשובה גם במידוס רועס ובמחשבות רועס. כאילו, as if, יש מקום לומר שאפילו אם נוהגת היא התשובה במעשים רעים, עדיין אין בזה הכרח שנוהגת היא התשובה גם במידוס רועס. תשובה די, it's not on מידוס. ואינו מבורר לנו טבעה של תוצאו. I don't understand why you would make such a mistake. The mehechitesi. What does mehechitesi? How do you say it in English?
Where are you coming from?
Where are you coming from? באמת לחלק בין תשובה במעשים רעים לתשובה במידוס רועס ומחשבות רועס? Why should I make such a difference? Why should I differentiate like that? But the Rambam had a strong argument like that. And he had to bring a pasuk in Yeshel to show you not. Why? Some boys say, I want to show you something on Mitzvah. Tshuva means to return, literally. Return to where?
To himself.
What do you mean to himself?
To the characteristic that you had before when you went down.
Oh, let's give a look at the morale. In Baksav Alf. When the Siva Tshuva Perik base, in Baksav Alf. We're in Baksav Alf. Because of G'doyle Tshuva Shemivir B'fur Loylam. That's what says Niyama. When you do Tshuva, it brings B'fur Loylam. Okay. Dalecha, says the morale. Again, Dalecha is a typo. Ki ha-tshuva hi la'odam mitzad ki odam nivra b'atchalasa b'lachet. We all started with a clean slate. V'kasher ushav al Hashem Yisborach, as ha'odam choyzer el hatchalasai. You go back to your starting point. U'mipnei ze ru'iyah tshuva lavi refuah lo'olam, ki ha-refuah gam ken she'ushav liot kebatchila. You go back to your starting point. וכאשר בני אדם עושים תשובה וחוזרים אל התחלסם, העולם גם כן חוזר להתחלסם לתקן כל קלקול שהוא בעולם. ולפיכך אומר גדול לתשובה שמביא רפואה לעולם, כאשר העולם מדבק בתחילוסם, ואהב את זה. Next point. ולסיבה תשובה פרק דעת כוסם. כי כאשר שב אדם על התחלסם, אדם בעצמו שב על התחלסם כמו שהיה בלא חטא, בעובד. Right? כמו שהיה אדם בתחילס ביוסי. Meaning, tshuva means, you remember the Rashi, Baruch atah b'vorecha, Baruch atah b'tzisecha? Remember what Rashi says there?
Should leave this world.
Should-
Yes, look at that, count.
Exactly. Shetiyeh yitziyoscha min ha'olam b'lo chet ki v'yoscha l'olam. We came to the world pure. And that's always in us. And tshuva means to go back to that starting point. To return. That's what tshuva is. Going back to where you start from. Just like by Hanukkah, there was a pach shemen, a little small vessel which was tar, with all the tumah going around. There was one little vessel tar. In every human being, there's something tar. No matter how many Averos he did. His beginning was tar. And he could always go back to that beginning point. Rafutnik got very excited about that, Maral. Give a look at Max Kabet. Habet now, kama yitriach atzmo to zaken. It means the Maral. בנסיב התשובה שלו, לפרש ולבאר ולהסביר כי נקודת המוקד, the central point, בכלול עניין התשובה היא השיבה אל ההתחלה. Going back to your starting point. ולא עוד אלא שחזר על זה כמה פעמים, אחד ואחדנה, עד שניכרת בדבריו השתוקקות מיוחדת להשריש בנו הנחה זו, שמרכז כוחה של תשובה הוא בשיבה אל ההתחלה. What is tshuva about? Going back, reset, starting over from the beginning. That's what tshuva is. I once told this to Rabbi Yonis and David. I quoted this. I said, the Rosh Shiva calls them Maral Kamatoch Oiso Zoken. He says, really? Rabbi Yonis David, where? And I showed him. And he looked at it and he said, he probably had a reason why he said it. He said, "Me, the Lord of Reku." There's probably a reason why he called them Maral Oiso Zoken. There's a Lashon Chazal, Kamatoch Oiso Zoken about Yaakov Avinu. Okay, he's paraphrasing that on the Maral and the Siva Tshuva. But I want to ask now a Gavaldik Akasha, and for Rabbi Michal, who's a professional, it's Mamash Nagel Lamaisa. We have two kinds of midas, nature and nurture. I'm not the one to say it. Look at the Gaon. You don't have the Gaon here because I did a later edition. The Gaon says that a person has two kinds of midas: what he's born with, and what he
Surround himself with.
nurture. There's two. He says the pasuk in Mishlei shows. He says the first one that you got used to is called derech, and the other one is called I forgot the other word. Because it's a garden Mishlei pegged out in a few places. There's two sets of bad midas or good midas for that matter that we have in our system: nature and nurture. So if it's a bad midah of nature, how can you do tshuva on it? You were born with it. So what's the beginning?
You weren't born with it.
Please listen. Fairness. It can't answer like kacha. Fairness obeyes. The guide says you're born with a certain set of midas. Born. He says nolad bateva. That's the lashon. You're born with it. Kach omer. Mamish is words. In my other edition, I have a later edition of this. The guide I emailed to you. You're born with it. So where are you going to go back to? You can rectify it start. But tshuva means to go back to the beginning. I don't have a beginning without it. I was born with these midas. So what should I do? What do you say about that, Kasha?
Every midah has a midah.
But again, he says Meferish, I'm born with a tendency. He says Kash, I have a midah. You could use it for good,
Yes.
but that's not the Nakuda. I have a midah which is bad. So what should I do? I can rectify it, but how could I do tshuva on
Why
it?
is it bad?
Okay, the Bible says you're born with bad midas. Fine.
A bad midah.
Yeah. He calls them Meferish. Eva Kas, that's what he says. A person's born with a tendency to that.
You to be mistaken it.
Again, I'm saying it. You could metake it, but you can't do tshuva. Tshuva means you're going back. Tshuva means to return. To return. Return to where?
So Esav and Yaakov, where was?
One good answer back on that was that. Meanwhile, let's speak about regular people. You're born with these midas. We'll go back to Esau Yaakov in a minute. The Maral speaks about Esau Yaakov.
When you say in the shorish of your neshama,
So, person, this was the question I was looking for. If anybody talks about it. If tshuva is all about starting at the beginning, the reset started at the starting point, but you're born, says the Goyen, in a few places with some, with a group. We know that. Look around. Ask your wife, some of the children that were born. They saw already from day one that he has this teva and that teva. They saw from day one that he's awake ad asof. They saw it. So bad midas also. So how do you do tshuva on that? You want to rectify it? Fine, but you can't do tshuva. Tshuva means to go back to the beginning. Call it metaken, not shav. Rabbi said, you won't believe I found someone that asked that. You know who? Rav Hutner. Really? Not in the Pachad Yitzchak. The Pachad Yitzchak doesn't appear. So where? Do you know the Maggid Shir Daf Yomi called Michal Zilber? Goyen Yisrael? It was my Rebbe in Itri. He has a sefer called Biyam Derech. He has a few svarim. It's a few volumes. Give a look what he says in Mexican Gimel. Give a look. Shamati me'agri Hutner. I know him. Zatzal. Shehiksha. It's an Eidos of Rabbi Zilber. Ari, you know him from the Daf Yomi, right? He's a, yeah, Michael Zilber. He's a guy. At the age of 25, I already knew everything. I knew him when he was 25. שמעתי מהגר הוטנר זצ"ל שהיקשה. תשובה היינו לחזור למצבו הקודם שקודם החטא, והיקשה דלכאורה על מידס רועס לא שייך תשובה למצבו הקודם. כי נולד מהמידס כאלו? He asked that. Look what he answered. ואמר שעל מידס רועס התשובה היא לחזור לנשמה שנתת בטהרה היא. What Michal said. כי הנשמה אשר לחלק אלוקה ממעל היא ודאי טהורה מכל פגם של מידס רועס, ודברי פי חכם חן. You know, that's an expression that he said, it's busting in Mishlei. Koheles. Yeah, you're right, Koheles. And usually in this form, it's a Mashitevis, the Pachach.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to figure. Divrei pi chacham chen. So we have an edus here of Rabbi Michal Zilber that he heard a question and answer from Rav Hutner. B'diuk this question. How could you do tshuva and midas? What's your starting point? You were born with them.
What's the answer?
And the answer is, before you're born, there was something here about you. You're neshama. What do I say? You're neshama, not only in heaven, in the 9 months of the pregnancy in our mother's womb. You know what happened there? The way the Maral explains it? He explains it in a few places. The neshama and the guf are parallel to each other. But there's no constraints of the neshama from the guf. What does it say about a fetus? Ner dolek al rosho, v'ro'eh misofa oila v'ad soifoi, and he is learned kol ha-Torah kula. There's a neshama there who's kula ruchni. And the guf of the 9 months is being created as well. They're both there. When do we get the neshama, by the way? On the 40th day. You know what the Mal explains over if we'll have time. How come the Torah says you give Albay Malchus, but the Lamaisa give only 39? So why did the Torah say 39? 40 is not 39. If you give 39, say 39. Why do you say 40? So on that, the Mal explains that what is Malchus? That this whole Yitzira turns sour. And Yitzira is 40 days. This whole package needs to be rectified. Like you call a car back a recall, right? It's a recall. Every time you give a halakha, it rectifies. It's what has to rectify. אני הולך לשבת ליד הרב קדומי. I know it's a tough hour. It's a tough hour. There's 40 malchus in principle, but once you give 39 malchus one after another, the goof is already rectified. The 40th one will be only net against the neshama. The neshama doesn't do a chet. It's when it's together the package that does a chet, because the goof schleps the neshama. But once you rectify the goof, there's no need to give the 40th one, because the 40th one will fall square on the neshama. The neshama doesn't do a chet. The neshama doesn't need tikkun. That's how the Rambam explains it. If we'll have time, we'll go a little bit into it.
Where does it say that?
In Pashas Kitetze, the Gur'ai, where it says Abin Yakenu, and also in the Aragoy Lebe'er Rishon. And, so just to finish this Nakuda, in those 9 months, we had a neshama that had also stealing, what's the word in Midas with the S? Sterling. Like sterling with pounds? The same word?
Same
Sterling with pounds doesn't sound so geschmack.
It's like silver.
Pure silver. Sterling Midas. We had that. There's something in our system that we could always go back to. Not only to the pre-chet of the Maisa, which is when we came to the world without chetayim. You could say maybe up to the age of 12 for a girl and 13 for a boy, but without a chet. I could hear that as well. we started off our life without chet. And we could always return to that beginning point. That's what happens on Maisim. On Midas, there's also something in us which started pure, sterling Midas, the Neshama. What happens when the baby's born? After 9 months, boom, they merge, the Neshama and the Guf, and that's where things can turn a little bit not so good. We're giving Midas that we have to rectify. But there's an earlier stage. But I'll call putting what say. Obviously, that's a much harder avodah. To go back to the neshama's level, where the midas were perfect, it's avodah gdoila. But now I understand the havamin of the Rambam why there should be tshuva on midos. Because tshuva on midos is where's the beginning point? He had the kasha that I had. I would have thought that at least. Okay, it's only a havamina, but I hear the havamina. If the Goren says that there's two kinds of midas, nature and nurture, and nature is you're born with it, and tshuva is all about starting going back to the beginning point. What's the beginning point by midas? You're born with them. You never had a day in your life without it. So where's that to return? No, but there's something in you. You're not only a goof. You start off as a neshama. And that is kulei revach. That's all pure. And you have the ability to go back to that as well.
Through your goof.
The pre-goof. Absolutely. The goof, yes. I would say pre-chavrusa with goof. Maybe that would be a better way to put it. So now let's go back to answer the kasha of the Maral. You tell me now the answer. In one place the Maral says, the fact that he was even of the Zohar, he did tshuva. What do you want from the guy? But what comes about tshuva and did something of Goyim? That's the Maral in Kvus Hashem Perketes. And then the Maral by Gerari explains Rashi, which is a Gemara in 3 places, that, he was Mefatim Agon of the Zohar.
But you're going through the goof to get to the neshama, presumably.
Come on. How would you answer it? It's not kasha at all, boy say.
Nature has that mitzvah, sorry, and he did shuvah. Maybe he even did it on that.
On the Maisa part, for sure.
No, maybe he himself.
Listen, Enochem the Maral asked from the fact that Yisro was Mefatim Agonim of the Zohar in Gvus Hashem, but he really just used it as a term that Chazal used because he's quoting the Midrashim over there. The Midrashim ask, why did Moshe Rabbeinu get married to a daughter of someone who's Oivet Ava Zara? And you know what they answer when they ask the question? They never said Mefatim Agonim of the Zohar. The question is, why are you getting married to someone who's a Balavera, a daughter of a Balavera? The answer is he did tshuva, so he's not a Balavera anymore. But here we discovered that what were the Shvatim saying? Midos. That's the issue. The fact that he did tshuva doesn't mean that he rectified the Midos part. Here we're speaking about that there's a cruelty that went by the Yerusha. And therefore, yes, the Shvatim are the first ones to acknowledge they did tshuva. But as Rabbeinu Yokran proved to us, doing tshuva in the Maisa does not mean that you rectified the midah. And that midah is still going on. 1 second. Answers the Kodesh Baruch to the Shvatim. It could be you're right. It could be you're right that Yisro didn't rectify the midah part. But it's irrelevant because anyway, whatever Pinchos did kept him out. It's irrelevant. Whatever he did kept him out. So who cares what Yisro is? But I understand where the Shvatim are not coming from. How you did tshuva? Tshuva has its remedy on what? On the Maisa. He's not called a Balavera anymore. And the kasha of Chazal was, why are you getting married to a daughter who was a Kohen Lav with the Zohar? The Maral quoted Mefatim Agonim, but the Chazal that he's quoting over there, they mention him in that. He's a Balavera. The answer to that is, he's not a Balavera anymore. Just like Reuven's not called a Balavera anymore. Yaakov didn't mention to him, Bilbal Yitzur Elviv. He didn't mention that to him. He said Pachas Kamayim. Meaning there could be that the Avera and Balavera is gone. There's Kapara. There's no Onesh. I sometimes wonder, why do I care? So what if there's a few people falling asleep? Asma! So what? Look at that.
I remember I read that about 45 years ago, mentioned Vilna Gaon, said very few people get to the Nakuda Rishona, talking about teshuva. Maybe it's the same.
Yeah.
Same.
Very good.
And they
Right.
put their Rishayna before.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah. You know, again, 100%. But I understand what you know. It's again. I didn't know the second version of this, so it's more a little bit more. Instead of Avet Rabbi, I call it someone else. I call it But the point being is that Rabbi Shimon Salanter said. I remember it's known, and it's quoting in many places. It's easier to learn Shas than to change one midah. As a result,
Go on to say.
What?
Doesn't he go on to say that by learning Shas you do change them?
I don't know. It could be. When I saw quoting, I can say that.
I read the first one.
I remember the Mamashgiach David Eliach Zatzal. When I was learning an entry, he said, and Rabbi Shimon Salanter did both, so you could trust him. He finished Shas, and he was attacking the midas. And he says it's easier to finish Shas than to attack in a midah. So it's a big avodah to attack in a midah. We know that. The Shvatim were not denying the fact that Yisro did Tshuva. But once we moved the whole issue to midos, they were saying it's Azorius, not Azorius. So in this case, they could say, yes, he did Tshuva, but it won't help for this one. Well, it's not necessarily that it helped. And of course, Baruch answers, you're right. But who cares? Whatever Pinchos has comes from Aaron. So you don't have to worry about Yisro.
Does a guy have an neshama?
Yeah. And the guy has a Tzam Lakim also. Yeah. Not in the same Madrega, not the same level, but yeah. So Mela Abu Yisai, that's what we want to learn. So today, so you see what the headline is of this thing? What's the headline of this page? Ha'im tshuva mu'ila letikun amidos. Of course it's tshuva and tikun amidos, but it's not just chavota and kabbalah, whatever. It's a different avodah. And that, but isn't it, I'm just saying, we're always speaking about internet, how terrible it is, which is true. But Eitzel Chachma, could you do it without internet? Yeah, you could, no? With the disk. It's such a mitzvah, this Eitzel Chachma. I would never find this Lopia. And Reb Michal Zimmer quoting Rafutna, a question and answer that you heard Balpeh? I would never find it. Never. So, Bekitzu, we should all be Zeiche to what?
Tuesday, he goes to Gedonia. You going? Should we go?
Why not?
All the shiurim and chavristas that people have. I never
You know, first I want to tell you something else before. Do you know what this thing about Eretz HaKodesh, what it is? It's mamish a big Indian to register. Maybe I'll send it to Baruch, the thing. It's Pashat the Emes, Avram Grovitz is behind it. And to have, just like we have Haredi parties in the Knesset, the parliament of the Jewish people outside Israel is called the Zionist, or whatever it's called?
Jewish agents.
Jewish Zion, whatever. There's billions there, and they give it out every year. The Reform are taking millions and millions. You know, when they do all the tzaras in Eretz Yisrael, the woman by the wall, and all the going to the Supreme Court, it's all being sponsored from here. So Kemah Yidden said, let's have a firm representation there also. There won't be so much money going to the reforms, and we'll get the money. For our yeshivas, for everything. It doesn't cost money. You just sign that you're a member. I'll send it over to Baruch. I think it's a dover gadol. Hamatzil min ha'ori min ha'baldalas. Be'emet. And it's not millions, it's billions.
It's gone around and every shul has representative.
Yeah?
It's gone around.
You heard about it, Rabbi?
Yeah, a few times already. Yeah. Every shul's got a representative.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, now regarding, what was the other question?
Tuesday, the 6th.
On the Tuesday. Personally, boys, another thing, I'm going to be with my boys in Prague on Tuesday, Wednesday, but we're going to be back in Stammer Mitzvah on Wednesday night. So don't plan a holiday on Wednesday night. Okay? I can tell you in 2 Wednesdays from here, I'm not going to be here. So you have a little nechama. But next Wednesday, I think Be'ez Hashem I'll be here. I'm going the following day, Be'ez Hashem to Eretz Yisrael, but Wednesday night I'm going to be here. Coming back from Prague. Again, boys, if anybody wants, I should mention something, a name, by the Tzlach of the Maral, who deserves it more than the Bnei Chabur that come to learn Maral? Amen. So you can email it to Baruch or email it to me directly. I have a very, very easy email to remember. Thanks to Rabbi Yosef. You know what it's called? YH. That's my name, Yeshua Hartman. At Rabbi Hartman. And he did that. I will do it. .net. Right? That's what it is. If anybody has something about anything about shidduchim, parnasa, gesund, health, anything, it's considered a mokum tefillah, the tzir of the mile. The Kotzk Rebbe would send us to see him all the way from Kotzk to daven for. Amnonez was very, very sick throughout his whole life. It was his son-in-law. He would send Chasim to daven for him. The man said he lived to a ripe age. He died in the 70s. But he was ill, kol yom echav. Amnonez. Okay, boys, so do we have a minyan for Marav? Who hasn't davened yet? Okay, who davened?